Let's begin our entry into the iPhone 4 GSM by first removing our two pentalobe screws, one on either side of the dock port assembly on the bottom of the phone. With our pentalobe screws removed, we can take a grip of the rear portion of our phone and slide it upwards about 1/8 of an inch. This should free the back cover from the iPhone for removal. With the cover removed, right away you'll recognize the battery. Let's use our Phillips screwdriver to remove the single screw that's securing its connector into the motherboard. The connector for your battery should now be freed. We can use our spudger to gently pry that up. Make sure to keep track of the small metal clip that's below our battery connector for our reassemble. A combination of our spudger and the use of the plastic pull tab for the battery, and it should lift quite easily for removal. With the battery removed from our iPhone, we can now bring our attention to removing the earpiece speaker. Let's first start by removing the two Phillips screws that are securing the dock port connection into our motherboard. Remove the small cover on that connection. And use our spudger to pry up that connection and peel our ribbon wire back. We've got 6 Phillips screws around the top of the motherboard that need to be removed. With those screws removed, we have a metal plate that's covering the majority of our connections for our motherboard. Let's lift this plate from the iPhone. We can now begin peeling back some of our connections, starting with our rear-facing camera, and we can lift that up and out of the phone. Five additional connections that need to be removed, starting with our touchscreen, our LCD connection, our power and volume button connection, our front-facing camera connector, and our headphone jack assembly connection. We want to remove the standoff that's right under all of these connections. Use a small flathead screwdriver for removal. We have a Phillips screw that's securing the bottom of our motherboard down by the speaker assembly. Pull up the small coaxial connection for our antenna. And let's use a SIM card removal tool or a paper clip to remove the SIM card tray out of the side of the phone. This should loosen and free up our motherboard so we can lift it out of the iPhone. With our motherboard removed, that will reveal the top of our earpiece speaker that's only secured with a small amount of adhesive. We can use a pair of tweezers or a spudger to pry the earpiece speaker up and out of the iPhone. We can now pull the front-facing camera out of its housing. The phone's vibrator motor is secured by 2 Phillips screws on either side of it. Let's remove those screws and peel the vibrator out of the phone. This next part, where we're working on the headphone jack assembly, we need to be extra careful. The ribbon wire is incredibly delicate when we're peeling it out of the adhesive, securing it into the phone. Once we have the ribbon wire peeled out of the way, we can gently pry up on the headphone jack itself. Do not try to remove the headphone jack assembly at this point, as it's still connected to the volume buttons in the side of the phone. We've got 4 Phillips screws securing these buttons into the side of the phone. We can go ahead and remove them. With our securing screws removed and our ribbon cable out of the adhesive, we can now remove this entire assembly. Let's get in there and remove our loudspeaker. We have 2 Phillips screws on either side. Removing those screws, and now we can gently pull the speaker out of the body of the phone. Bringing our attention over to the display now. We have our securing screws, one on each corner of the display assembly. As well as 3 in either side of the phone. Keep in mind on our side securing screws that we're not totally removing them, we're only backing them out about halfway. With all of our screws addressed, we now attack the display assembly at one of the corners, trying to create a separation from the frame of the phone. And with that separation created, we can now bring in our plastic opening tool to finish off the separation around the entire perimeter. And now we can remove the display assembly from the body of the phone. Let's now address our home button. Our home button has a small ribbon cable that's located directly behind the dock port assembly. This ribbon cable has a locking socket that we need to flip up to release the ribbon cable for removal. And now it's simply a matter of maneuvering that ribbon wire out of the phone and remove that home button for replacement.